G'day legends, TJC Sports here, recovering from an Origin game, one loss. That's right, the Eels fan's a Queensland supporter. Nell's not born in New South Wales. Let's keep going. Point is, TJC's not very happy right now as we enter NRL Round. Get this, you won't believe it. 13, and it's not a short round like last week, so plenty of predictions to be had here as multiple players are backing up from Origin. Look forward to it despite my disappointment. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, remember that these are just my opinions and not fact. Thank you all so much for recently helping us hit 5k. Look forward to many more ventures in the future. Anyways, let's get on with it. These are my NRL Round 13 predictions. We kick it all off with the Dragons versus the Newcastle Knights. Well, both teams coming off victories. Dragons, technically they came off a bye, but before that they did beat the Broncos in a thrilling victory at Suncorp Stadium that came down to the very last second. As for Newcastle Knights, they're bouncing off a great win over the Penrith Panthers. Look, yes, I am aware, it might as well have been the juniors. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that at the end of the day they beat a team coming off a 4P, as Panthers sit last place on the table. We're not talking about Panthers yet. That'll be done in due time. I do think that the Newcastle Knights could easily use that win to get on a good run here versus the Dragons. However, I do also just think that the Dragons have looked that bit more impressive. And yes, I do think they will go back to normal this game. Feel free to prove me wrong, Knights, but I'm going to go with the Dragons 13+. Then it's time for some Saturday footy. It is the Gold Coast Titans versus the Melbourne Storm. As it stands, most players seem to be backing up, though it could change. I have heard there's a chance Tino or Grant could be out for either side. Not that it's guaranteed, though. Anything's possible. I'm going to keep it short and sweet with this one. I would absolutely love it if the Gold Coast Titans beat the Melbourne Storm. I think that would be absolutely brilliant to watch. But I find it extremely hard to see. And I'm going to have to keep it short and sweet here and say that I reckon the Melbourne Storm will win this 13+. Then we have Cowboys versus Tigers, and what a thrilling matchup this has been in the past here. Not so sure if it'll be this time, but my goodness, it has been in the past. Now, I don't usually try to look too much into player movements mid-season when it comes to my tipping, but Galvin is such a huge move for the Tigers here. I think it'll play a big role in this game. It'll either do one of two things. It'll either heavily motivate the Tigers, or it will expose just how good he was with them. Embarrassed just a few weeks ago by the Manly Warringah Seagulls, Cowboys at home do have the advantage in this one. And with that advantage, and I'm going to be honest, just my lack of trust for the Tigers right now when it comes to tipping, I'm going to go with the North Queensland Cowboys to win this in a tight one, 1-12. This could be a really good game. It could also be a smashing, but let's hope that's not the case, as I just said 1-12. Finishing off Super Saturday, we have the Manly Warringah Seagulls taking on the Broncos. Manly coming off a loss to the now improving Parramatta Eels, my mighty Parramatta Eels side, and the Broncos coming off an upset versus the Dragons. I honestly don't think the Broncos did that bad last week compared to Manly. I don't even think Manly did that bad. Parra played well, but when you look at how the Broncos played, Ezra Mann was on fire, as much as I don't like him right now, and they really easily could have won that one. They were a bit unlucky. It came down to the last few minutes, and if it wasn't for the Dragons pulling off quite possibly their best performance of the year, they probably don't win that one. It's also worth noting that Manly don't have Tommy Turbo or Takiaho in their side, which could impact them here. It's a funny game we have because Manly love a good performance at Brookie, don't they? Even without Turbo, it's one of their fortresses. So if there was a time that they're going to beat the Broncos with the current form they're on, it would probably be this one here. I'm going to regret it. I know I am with the fact that it's at Brookie, but I'm going to go with the Broncos to bounce back here. All right, I know what some of you will be saying about that, and don't worry, I understand, but one thing Manly struggled really heavily with was keeping their middle together while the pack ran through it. And I'm concerned with players such as Payne Haas, how Manly will handle that. And I don't know if they'll quite be up for this one. They could be, as it's at Brookie, but yeah, Broncos 1-12. Time for some Sunday footy, and we'll have the South Sydney Rabbitohs versus the Warriors to kick it off. The South Sydney Rabbitohs coming off an incredible victory over the bye, and the New Zealand Warriors coming off what was a very tight loss to the Raiders. I feel like they were a bit unlucky in that one, but at the end of the day, you didn't get the job done. So I know there's many people that would probably back Warriors to win well here, but never underestimate a South Sydney Rabbitohs side with Jamie Humphries in it. That's all I'm saying. They also have a fit and ready Trell coming back from an Origin victory. I'm sure that that's certainly going to hype him up for this one. And the Warriors will have to be on their A game. Despite all the positives I've said about the Buddies, I also feel that the Warriors should get this one done here anyways. After last week, I see them reacting heavily and bouncing back with this. I think it'll be a tight game, but Warriors to win 1-12. To follow that, our second last game of the round, it is my mighty Parramatta Eels playing away from home at their home stadium versus the visitors, the loanees, the renters, whatever you want to call them, the Penrith Panthers. It's also the Blaze Talungi Cup as he returns to play his former side. Panthers are obviously last on the table, which is a huge up for the Parramatta Eels, as we'll be looking to keep them last for this game. I also think, though, that the Panthers will be motivated after that Blues performance and will probably look to give us a game here. I think this will be 1-12. It's just about who it's to, and I think it's tight enough that I'm going to go with my Parramatta Eels legends. Eels to win this 1-12, as I personally think will be up for it. Bias, what's that? Never heard of it. Bring it on. Battle of the West, baby. Game of the round. And then it all ends with the Roosters versus the Raiders here. Roosters coming off a very surprisingly big win over the Cronulla Sharks that almost makes you want to put a red line through the Sharks, how impressive it was. Very clear Roosters are building something. But don't let that take away from the Raiders, who have looked pretty decent this year. Have they had a few games where they've earned their nickname that we commonly know to them as the Faders? Absolutely. But overall, they've been all right, which means that this game is literally a flip of the coin of how you believe it'll go. So, tell you what, I'll give you a positive for both, and then I'll give my tip. A positive for the Roosters is that they're on form, and there's a reason the Raiders are called the Faders. A positive for the Canberra Raiders is that I believe they are actually a top 4 team. Taking a look at those two positives, there's one that means more to me, but that might be different to you with your tip. For me, I am going to have to go with the Roosters in a very tight 1-12 win.